Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is another episode of the Championship Roundup, guys. So in this video, we're first of all going to be going over all the action that took place this weekend in the Championship, guys. And I've got to say, we had some massive matches going on. We had some massive scores. We had some incredible goals scored this week. And we had a couple of upsets down the line as well. So we've got quite a bit to talk over. And in the second half of the video, guys, I'm going to be giving you my midweek score predictions for the matches that are taking place tomorrow, guys, in like I said, in midweek. So if you would like to make your predictions for the midweek fixtures, I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place in the description down below, and then you guys can go ahead and make your predictions for that. Also as well, I'd love to hear about what you thought of all the weekend's action and how your team did and all good stuff like that. And as well as that, what do you think was the result of the weekend and the goal of the weekend as well, because there were some massive goals scored this weekend. I'll be revealing what I thought they were at the end of the video, but like I said, it'll be interesting to know what you guys had to say. So just before we get into any of the matches, guys, I will include your comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of the fixtures that happened this weekend, I will include your comments on the screen now. So fair play to anyone who did get a prediction right. I think this week I managed to get one score prediction right, which wasn't too bad for me. It's not the best, not the worst. I managed to predict the Blackburn against Rotherham game. I said that one would finish 1-1, and in the end it finished just that. So I've got to say as well, there were some massive upsets in this one, so it was a pretty hard week to predict in my opinion. So for our first game we had to talk about, guys, we had the game taking place on Friday night between Sheffield Wednesday and Birmingham, and in the end Sheffield Wednesday managed to walk away with a 3-0 victory. And what a result this could be with Sheffield Wednesday for the rest of the season, you know. I mean, in terms of the teams in the playoffs currently, you know, Sheffield Wednesday are probably the team most likely to go ahead and miss out because they are just that little bit behind the other three currently in the playoffs. But if this performance was anything to go by, it wasn't perfect, I'm not going to deny that, but they showed their clinical nature in front of goal. And more than anything, I think that's what, you know, players like Jordan Rhodes and Sam Winnell will, hopefully for them, add to their cause before going up this season. But in terms of Birmingham, I didn't even think that Birmingham were too bad in this game, to be completely honest. And I thought 3-0 was a little bit harsh on them. I did think that Wednesday deserved to win the game, but I didn't think Birmingham were that bad that the game was justifiable by a 3-0 victory. But of course, Birmingham not on the best run of form lately. They're coming up against my club, Preston, North End next, so an interesting one going into that one. Absolutely. But in terms of Sheffield Wednesday, good result for them. And then for our next feature, guys, we have Aston Villa, who are coming up against Ipswich Town, and against all the odds really, Ipswich managed to walk away with a 1-0 victory away to Aston Villa, and a fantastic result for Ipswich really. And recently, it's got to be said, I think Ipswich really have been picking their form up recently. I mean, throughout the majority of the season, Ipswich have been this really inconsistent side, but recently they put together a decent little run of form in my opinion, and that was summed up once again by this result in this game here today. I mean, Ipswich came to Aston Villa with, I think it was a game plan really. I mean, Ipswich only had one shot on target in the entire match, and they've managed to go ahead and win the game, so fair play to them for doing that. And it actually wasn't Tom Lawrence on the score sheet today for once. But in terms of Aston Villa, I felt like they'd have been very disappointed from this, you know, for a side to come to your team, have only one shot on target and walk away with all 3 points really is a detriment to them. And Aston Villa have missed quite a lot of chances in this game, couldn't find that clinical nature, and the goal as well came from a bit of sloppy defending. So I think overall it was very poor from Villa, and it's got to be said as well, Aston Villa are not in a good run of form at this point in time. So Villa fans, what do you think's going wrong? Do you think your new signings just need a bit more time to bed in, or do you think something else is going wrong with it? Then for our next game, guys, we had Brighton, who came up against Burton Albion, and in the end Brighton managed to walk away with a comfortable 4-1 victory over Burton. So I do think in this match Burton were forced to make a couple of changes thanks to injuries and everything like that, so really it was no surprise when Brighton were able to walk away with a 4-1 victory. So of course the top of the table, the race for the title in the Championship really is heating up now, with of course Brighton and Newcastle both winning this weekend. And once again it was a fantastic victory for Brighton. They showed their clinical nature in front of goals really. They had Tom Ahmed, who scored 2 goals, who, like I said, to have a player like Tom Ahmed, who normally has been used as an impact sub for the rest of the season, for him to be able to still be able to add that quality in front of goal when you've already got players like Murray and Baldock and Knockaert going forward, really is just an attribute that you've got going forward this season, Brighton fans. So overall a great victory for you. And then into our next game, guys, we had one of the most crazy results we've seen probably so far in the Championship. Not just this weekend, we had Derby County 3, Bristol City 3. So I'll talk about this game half by half. So in the first half, Bristol City, they were excellent in the first half, and they had goals from Matty Taylor, who managed managed to grab his first goal since signing from Bristol Rovers, and Tammy Abraham also managed to add 2 further goals, and to be 3-0 up at half-time, it's got to be said as well, Derby County in the first half, they were not good, and they really did look off the tempo a little bit, which is a bit surprising really, for a team to be chasing the playoffs and to look that sloppy and slow and lethargic in the first half really was a surprise to me, but in the second half was just a complete contrast to that. Bristol City just seemed to collapse in the second half, and Derby finally took the game to Bristol City like I'm sure a lot of people would have been expecting them to from the off in the first half, but in the second half Derby managed to get goals thanks to Darren Bent grabbing 2 and Tom Ince also grabbing a goal as well, and for this one to finish 3-3, I mean going into this game I think Bristol City would have probably taken a point, but to be 3-0 up, I just can't sum that up really. I mean, 3 points for Bristol City would have been absolutely massive in this game in my opinion, because with their running that they've got next, you know, with the next like 4 or 5 teams they've got coming up, they've got a really tough running for fixtures, so to pick up 3 points away at Derby would have been massive for them, but for them to draw this game, definitely 2 points drop for Bristol City, and I've got to say as well, I think there'll be a bit of frustration around Derby as well for that first half performance. And then for our next fixture guys, we had Fulham who came up against Wigan Athletic. So for this one, Fulham managed to walk away with a 3-2 victory over Wigan Athletic, and it's going to be said a last minute winner from Fulham managed to secure all 3 points for them, and I suppose sort of keeps their playoff dream alive really. And I don't think Fulham are too far away from the playoffs. They're in that sort of chasing pack, but I do think it will be difficult for them, but thanks to them managing to get that, you know, nice little bit of luck in this game, that playoff dream I think is still alive for Fulham, although it will be tough with of course a lot of other teams chasing the playoffs at this point in time. But I did feel like this result was a little bit harsh on Wigan Athletic, to be completely true. I thought that for spells in this game Wigan actually were outplaying Fulham at times, and they actually produce some decent football, but like I said, Fulham just seem to be having that swing of luck going their way out this point in time, and a fantastic result for them, which has kept them in touch of the playoffs like I said. But this result really didn't do Wigan Athletic any favours. They are now 5 points off safety, so it wasn't too long ago since Warren Joyce managed to get a massive reaction out of this Wigan team, and they look to be going on a good run, but this result here could be a bit of frustration, hold them back a little bit more, and like I said, at the bottom of the table, it's incredibly tight now. And then for our next result, guys, we had Leeds United, who came up against Cardiff, and in the end, to everyone's surprise, really, I think it's got to be said, Cardiff managed to walk away with a terrific 2-0 victory over Leeds. And what a result this was for Cardiff. They managed to walk away with a 2-goal lead, and oh my god, what a game this was for Cardiff. I mean, in terms of Leeds United, this was the sort of game which I suppose a lot of people were thinking that they'd show a reaction in this game, really, of course, after coming off the back of that defeat they had last time out to Huddersfield Town in the local derby. I mean, you'd have thought that Leeds would have been really fired up for this match, looking to take the game to Cardiff, everything like that, looking to have that clinical nature in front of goal, but honestly, none of that was on display in this game, and I thought they looked very limp going forward, actually, but the opposite has to be said for Cardiff. They were very efficient in this game, that's how I describe them, and like I said, they took their chances, especially in the second half, and Leeds of course weren't aided by the red card to Liam Bridcutt, but that was late on in the match, so it wouldn't have really had too much of a significance in terms of the grand scheme of things. But like I said going into this game, I thought Cardiff might make it difficult for Leeds, and in the end they did just that, and what a result it was for them. And then for our next fixture, guys, we had Norwich City, who came up against Nottingham Forest, and Norwich managed to walk away with a 5-1 victory over Forest, and what a result this was for Norwich. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, it was only about a month ago since I'm sure a lot of people were writing Norwich City off in terms of the playoffs, but with this result and some of the previous results they've had recently, they have been fired right back into the playoff push, and definitely in with a chance of promotion at the end of the season, I think it's got to be said. I mean, if they are able to craft out more results like this, and more than anything, more performances like this, they really could go somewhere for the rest of the season. I mean, I don't know what Alex Neil's done to change it, because at one point it did look like he completely lost the dressing room, but at this point in time everyone seems to be hitting the right amount of form, and Norwich just seem to be going in the right direction. I think it's got to be said, some fantastic goals were scored for Norwich in this game. I mean, Houlihan scored an absolute belter in this one, and Howson, what a goal that was, straight into the top corner. If you've not seen that Howson goal, make sure you go check it out. It was an absolute peach of a goal. And in terms of Nottingham Forest, very frustrated in this one. I mean, the only positive closest, if I can really think of this, was Ross McCormack grabbed his first goal for the club, but of course they had to substitute their keeper off Henderson early on in this game, which didn't help. They also got a red card as well to Lehigh in around the 70th minute, which once again didn't really help their cause, but Forest were off the pace and couldn't really get anywhere near to this Norwich side, who were absolutely sublime in this one. And then for our next game, guys, we have my club, Preston North End, who came up against Brentford. So for this one, Preston managed to walk away with a 4-2 victory over Brentford, and what a result this was for Preston, really. I mean, coming up against Brentford over the last probably couple of years really have seemed to be our bogey team, so I wasn't really expecting anything going into this game, and Brentford actually took the lead quite early on in this game, and I've got to say, I thought that Brentford were probably the better side in this game until Preston scored their first goal, and I thought after that Brentford just shrunk really back into their shell and didn't really offer anything after that. I mean, this game just has to be all down to Aidan McGeady. He was absolutely unplayable today, and probably is one of the best performances I've seen from a Preston North End player since, I don't know, Jermaine Beckford from Wembley. He was absolutely sublime in this game. He managed to get 2 goals and an assist, and both of his goals were absolute belters for him. They were both absolutely incredible, and some of the link-up play he has was just absolutely incredible, guys. I just can't think of enough adjectives to describe Aidan McGeady in this game because he was absolutely incredible. And Daryl Horgan also managed to get a goal as well. And to be honest, Preston could have had more than 4 goals in this game. You know, Stevie May missed a one-on-one, Jordan Hugill missed a one-on-one and a good heading opportunity. So really, Preston could have had 5 or 6 if we took more of our chances. But Brentford definitely off the pace in this one. Preston, although I actually didn't think Preston were great in this game, I just thought Aidan McGeady was absolutely terrific. And then for our next game, guys, we had QPR, who came up against Huddersfield Town, and to QPR's frustration, Huddersfield managed to walk away with a 2-1 victory. And I think it's got to be said in this game, I didn't think Huddersfield were the best in this game. You know, coming off the back of that Leeds United result they had last time out, I suppose a bit of expectation might have been put on the shoulders of Huddersfield Town, but really that wasn't, I don't know, I suppose it wasn't necessary in the end to come through this QPR side, but I do think that this result was a little bit harsh on QPR because I do think that they put in a very decent performance in this game and were quite unlucky not to come out with anything, but Huddersfield continued their push towards promotion and they're looking very good at the moment. Then for our next game, guys, we had Reading, who came up against Barnsley, and this one managed to finish as a goalless draw, so I won't spend too long talking about this one. It wasn't the greatest game in the Championship, you know. Barnsley sort of came to Reading with a game plan to make it very difficult for Reading, and they plugged the gaps quite well in this one, and I think that's Barnsley's now consecutive 0-0 draw they've had, so not the best from Reading, I suppose, but Barnsley did make it tough for them, to be fair to them, so a 0-0 in this one. And then for one of the biggest games we've seen in the Championship so far this season, in my opinion, guys, we had a massive game taking place at the bottom of the table, and in the end it managed to finish as a draw, with both sides drawing 1 apiece. And honestly, I think it's got to be said, I think this is a massive opportunity that has been missed by Blackburn Rovers. I mean, no disrespect to Rotherham United, but I just think that Blackburn had to win this game, really. I mean, it's so tight at the bottom of the table at this point, and with other sides around the bottom of the table losing, like Wigan Athletic, Bristol City dropping points as well, and Burton losing as well, this was a massive chance for Blackburn to go ahead and grab all 3 points. But the fact that they've only managed to come away from Rotherham away with 1 point, I think that could cost them in the long run. And then for our last match, guys, we had Wolves, who came up against Newcastle United, and in the end, Newcastle managed to walk away with a 1-0 victory thanks to a Mitrovic goal just before half time. So Newcastle really did score right at the good time there, just to get that sucker punch on Wolves. But in terms of this match, I didn't think that there was all too much quality going forward, really. I think both teams only had about 2 shots on target in this one, so I don't think there was that much quality actually on display in this game. But like I said, really all that mattered for this one wasn't really the performance from a Newcastle perspective, it was all about getting the result. And of course they were going into this match knowing that Brighton had already won their match on Saturday, so really it was important that Newcastle went ahead and picked up all 3 points, and thanks to Mitrovic they managed to do that. So there you have it, guys. That will wrap it up for all my analysis of this weekend's fixtures, guys. So what I would like you guys to do is go ahead in the comments down below and leave a comment as to how your team performed this weekend. I'd be very interested to know what you guys had to say about it. So in terms of my result of the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Cardiff City. There were a lot of results I could have given it to, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Cardiff for giving it away to Leeds United and winning by 2-0. It was a fantastic performance for them, and like I said, Cardiff get my result of the weekend. And then for my goal of the weekend, guys, honestly I probably should give this to Johnny Howson or Wes Hoolahan as well, but me being a biased Preston North End fan, I'm going to give it to Aidan McGeady for his second goal he scored. He actually scored 2 belters in the game against Brentford, but the second goal was absolutely sublime. He managed to take the ball out of the sky. There were 4 players around him. He managed to do a little bit of a flip-flap, then bend it into the top corner. Honestly, it was absolutely incredible. So my goal of the weekend is going to go to Aidan McGeady. Let me know in the comments down below who got your goal of the weekend. So going into the midweek fixtures, guys, I'll show you now on screen my predictions going into these games. So if you would like to leave your predictions in the comments down below, and if you do get any of your predictions right, I will include your comment at the start of the next video, guys. So going into them, I'll just rattle through some of these. So we have Aston Villa coming up against Barnsley. Honestly, I am going to fancy Aston Villa to win this one. I just think that this horrific run they've got going on at this point in time needs to come to an end sooner rather than later. Barnsley recently have looked a bit frustrated going forward, so I'm going to say Aston Villa 2-1. That could come back to bite me though, because I could see Barnsley getting something out of that game. Brighton against Ipswich. I'm going to go ahead and back a 3-1 win to Brighton. Despite Ipswich having been in a really good run of form recently, I just fancy this Brighton side to come through anything facing them at this point in time. Derby against Cardiff. Once again, a really tough fixture to actually go ahead and predict, and I'm going to go ahead with a Derby victory. I mean, once again, I think this will be a game which Cardiff make it very difficult for the home side, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cardiff were able to come away with something from this game, but I just think with the disappointment that Derby suffered last time out to Bristol City, they need to put in a good performance from the off in this one. So I'll go ahead and say 2-1 Derby. Fulham against Forest, I think quite a few goals could be scored in this one, so I'll say 3-2 to Fulham. Leeds United against Bristol City. Now this is a massive opportunity for either of these sides, in my opinion, to go ahead and pick up all 3 points. Looking at it on paper, Leeds should get all 3 points in this match, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 victory to Leeds. But Bristol City, with the current form Leeds are in and them losing their last 2 matches, Bristol City should be able to take advantage of that, so that could be a really interesting one to keep your eye on. Norwich coming up against Newcastle. This is the game of midweek, guys, that I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome of. It's a tough one as well. I honestly can't call it at this point in time, so I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to finish 1-1. Let me know what you guys think of that one in the comments down below. I would love to know what you guys had to say about that one. Preston coming up against Birmingham. After Preston's very decent result we had last time out, I'm going to back a 2-1 win to Preston. We then have Rotherham, who are coming up against Huddersfield. I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 win to Huddersfield. Sheffield Wednesday against Blackburn. Once again, Blackburn really do need to start picking up points, but I just think that Sheffield Wednesday will have enough to see off this Blackburn side, so I'll go ahead and back a 1-0 victory for Sheffield Wednesday. Wolves coming up against Wigan. Quite a tough one to actually predict, but I am going to go with a Wolves victory. I fancy them bouncing back from that Newcastle defeat, and Wigan, of course, been a bit frustrated recently, so I'll say 2-0 to Wolves. And then our last match, we have Reading, who are coming up against Brentford. I do fancy Reading to come through that game they had last time out against Barnsley, so I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 win to Reading. So there you have it, guys. That are my score predictions for the games taking place in midweek, guys. So like I said at the start of the video, make sure you get your predictions in the comments down below. But apart from that, guys, I will now wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below. Make sure you follow me on Twitter as well, as I always tweet before I upload the video. Therefore, you'll never miss a video ever again, guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.